NESN.com presents The Hurry Up.
Hey guys, welcome into week 15 of The Hurry Up. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. The New England Patriots are fresh off a big win against the Baltimore Ravens on Monday night. Brady threw for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Now he'll travel with the team to Denver to take on the Broncos in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. So what can we expect in this highly anticipated matchup? Michaela Vernava and Kyed are at Gillette Stadium with more, guys.
We're here at Gillette Stadium where the Patriots are preparing to head out to Mile High on Sunday to take on the Denver Broncos. Doug, should be a good one, a lot on the line for both teams.
Absolutely. Broncos have a very difficult schedule coming up, so a loss against the Patriots could kind of further the chances that they could be booted from the playoffs.
Well, now, LeGarrette Blount, big playmaker for the Pats throughout the season. We thought he might have some trouble on Monday night against the Ravens defense. They are number 1 in the league. He did not. And the Broncos defense, as strong as they are, they've actually given up the 4th most rushing yards per game in the league. So how much havoc do you think Blount will be able to wreak on their defense on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm kind of done doubting Blount at this point. I think I doubted that he could break the Patriots' single-season rushing touchdown record. I doubted that he could run the ball against the Ravens. At this point, he can do anything, and I think that this is another game where he could have a very big game. I think the Patriots will be relying on Blount and their running backs in that running game because the Patriots have had trouble throwing against the Broncos. When you're going up against Von Miller, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, DeMarcus Ware, you're going to have trouble. So I think the way to beat the Broncos and to get off to a hot start is certainly to ride LeGarrette Blount early in this game.
And now on the other side of the ball, the Patriots defense has picked it up as of late, been looking pretty good. And even though Trevor Siemian might not be the hottest quarterback out there right now, they do have some serious threats at receiver in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. What do you think we'll see covering those guys?
Yeah, Thomas and Sanders are having almost identical seasons this year. So I actually asked Bill Belichick about that, where you can't really key in on one of those guys. So he said, he basically agreed that, yeah, you can't key in on either one of them. You basically have to pick your spots. In the past, the Patriots have put Logan Ryan on Demaryius Thomas. He's had a lot of success there. Malcolm Butler then would go on Emmanuel Sanders. But there is still some questions there at cornerback for the Patriots, whether Eric Rowe will be able to play. Cyrus Jones was that third cornerback on Monday night, but he let up a 47-yard catch. He hasn't been that great this season in special teams and on defense. So throwing him in there against the Broncos might be kind of like adding kerosene to a fire out there. So I think the Patriots have to hope that Rowe can play. If he can't, maybe we'll see Justin Coleman. Maybe we'll see Patrick Chung. But for the most part, I think that we will see Ryan on Demaryius Thomas. That's been a good matchup in the past. And Butler will just have to do as best as he can against Emmanuel Sanders, who is also a very difficult wide receiver.
Dual threat definitely makes things more difficult. So it will be a good indication, too, of how this defense is really looking if they're able to keep it up. So
absolutely.
We'll see. Thanks, Doug.
Keely Flanagan with your Week 14 AFC playoff picture. It's looking more and more like the road to the Super Bowl will go through Gillette Stadium. The Patriots earned a statement win over the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football, solidifying their 1-seed positioning. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs leapfrogged the Oakland Raiders for first place in the AFC West, the 2-seed, a bye, and home field. At least until or if they face the Patriots in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers hold the 3-seed after the Ravens lost at Gillette. The wild card is where things get interesting, because let's face it, unless you're a fan of one of the AFC South teams, not much excitement. As of now, the Raiders and Broncos, 2 AFC West squads, hold the wild cards. The Miami Dolphins are just behind, but lost quarterback Ryan Tannehill to a sprained ACL/MCL. Not to mention, they still play the Patriots again, and New England will not want to give up the 1-seed. Also just outside looking in, the Ravens, Titans, Colts, and barely hanging on, the Buffalo Bills.
Here with Darren Hartwell for a look at fantasy football. And Darren, last week in the fantasy football world, things were a little unpredictable, just in time for the playoffs, no less. So thank you very much, fantasy football gods. This week around, I want to try something a little different. How about red light, green light? So does DeVontae Freeman get a red or green light this week?
I'm giving him the go-ahead this week. He let a lot of people down last weekend against the Los Angeles Rams, but he's playing the San Francisco 49ers this week. That's been like a Christmas present for opposing running backs, giving up 170 yards per game on the ground. So, yeah, start him.
Quarterbacks were hard to come by last week. I know personally Drew Brees didn't do anything for me. What about Matthew Stafford this week? Red or green light?
Yeah, I don't like Stafford this week. He injured his finger, his middle finger, no less, so I think he's going to be given the middle finger to to your fantasy owners here this week. He also has a really tough matchup against the New York Giants. They've given up the second fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this season, so I'm laying off him this week.
What about guys to find off the waiver wire this week?
I think the big name this week is KENNETH, the San Diego Chargers. Melvin Gordon's obviously out now, and FARROW got 22 touches last week. That's a big workload. Even if you don't use him this week against the Oakland Raiders, the next matchup is the Cleveland Browns, and they've been awful on defense. So that could be a guy who maybe is in your championship lineup. So I think he's worth an ad.
Big week for all of us. Good luck in your fantasy football playoffs, everyone.
Zack, the Patriots offensive line had quite a bit of trouble last January when they went to Denver, played the Broncos in the AFC Championship game, and this season really could be quite a bit different, not only because of health along the offensive line, but also some improvements that the Patriots have shown, both at right tackle with Marcus Cannon, right guard with Shaq Mason. David Andrews has been better this season. Rookie Joe Tooney has stepped up really well. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the Patriots brought back offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia. So I guess, how do you see the Patriots offensive line faring this week against Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware? This is probably the biggest test they faced all season.
I would agree with that, but you have to say right now there's no glaring weakness on this offensive line, which was not the case last year when they had several glaring weaknesses all along the offensive line. Obviously, this Broncos team is one of the best pass rushing teams in the entire league. Von Miller is probably the defensive player of the year right now. If not, he's definitely in the conversation. So this is going to be a tall task for even the best of offensive lines, but they're in far better shape this year than they were last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, Tom Brady compared Von Miller to Lawrence Taylor, which in Gillette Stadium with Bill Belichick as your head coach, that's pretty much the biggest compliment you can give a player. And Marcus Cannon lost a lot of weight over the offseason, so that might have even been done to combat the Denver pass rush. He struggled so much in that game. I think he will be much better with those pounds lost. Patriots run defense, another strong aspect for the team this season. They really shut down the Ravens in week 14, and I don't think the Broncos are going to fare much better against Patriots defense this week.
I don't think the Broncos run game is going to fare that well against anybody right now. They've got some injuries there. CJ Anderson's done. Right now they're relying on Devontae Booker and Justin Forsett, former Raven, who they just brought in. Both of them combined for 18 yards rushing against the Tennessee Titans this past weekend. They really had to rely on Trevor Siemian. He threw over 50 passes, a career high. That's not what you want to do with a quarterback like Trevor Siemian. He's been okay this year, but the Broncos really want to establish a run game, but they're just not doing it this year. And like you said, the Patriots have been very stout in that area.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them to establish that run game when you've got Alan Branch, Malcolm Brown, both probably playing the best football of the season right now. Patriots also have been stout on the edge with Trey Flowers, Chris Long, Rob Ninkovich. So it will be probably very tough sledding for the Broncos running backs in Denver this weekend.
And now we're joined by Mike Cole with a look at our lock and upset for Week 15. Mike, let's start off with your lock.
My lock this week, I'm going to go with the Oakland Raiders. They're a 3-point favorite on the road against San Diego. Always tough to win those divisional games, especially when on the road. But I think this is a nice bounce-back spot for the Raiders. Kind of got embarrassed, for lack of a better term, on Thursday night in the cold against Kansas City. Now they've got 10 days to rest. They're going to a warm climate. I think Derek Carr plays a lot better, especially with that finger in warm weather. And you look at the Chargers, so banged up. All season, injuries have taken their toll. And I think last week you look at Melvin Gordon goes down with a hip injury. They also lose Joey Bosa with a neck injury. Unsure if either of those guys are going to play on Sunday. So I just think this is a good spot for Oakland, a team that needs to win much more than San Diego does, who really doesn't have a whole lot to play for.
Well, if Derek Carr is going for that MVP award, he certainly needs to rebound from last game, like you said. So what about an upset this week?
My upset this week, I'm going on Monday night. It's actually, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. They're 4.5-point underdogs at Washington against the Redskins. And doing my prep work for this whole thing, I Googled Redskins primetime games because I feel like the Redskins don't play very well. Second Google response is, no, the Redskins don't play very well. It's what you think. It's like I literally said that, which was kind of creepy, but also kind of a revelation. Redskins are 6-20 in primetime games since the start of the 2008 season. One of those wins did come earlier this season, but that was against a Packers team that was banged up and playing like garbage. So I just don't put a whole lot of stock into that one. And also you look at Carolina, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're playing better. They're 4-3 in their last 7 games, and 3 of those losses came against Kansas City, Oakland, and Seattle, 3 teams that have very good defenses. The Washington Redskins don't have very good defense. I think the Panthers pull the upset.
Mike, I'm a firm believer that all of life's questions can be answered with a simple Google search. Appreciate it. We can find more from you for this week's locks and upsets in your podcast, The Spread.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's very good.
I know that.
Keely Flanagan taking a closer look at the NFC playoff standings. It's all Dallas Cowboys, even after their second loss on both the season and the New York Giants. That's right, the Giants earned a season sweep of the NFC's top team with an ugly but deserved 10-7 victory. At number 2, the Detroit Lions. The Lions will still have to hold off a red-hot Green Bay Packers, but if quarterback Matthew Stafford continues his kind of MVP caliber performance, Detroit could be hosting at least one playoff game. It's the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC West and the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC South. Seattle had their doors blown off against the Packers at Green Bay, all the more reason they'll be fighting for one of the top 2 seeds to guarantee a game at CenturyLink. Let's circle back to the New York Giants. They hold the first wild card and could be one of the more dangerous teams moving forward. You probably don't want to see that defense in the postseason. Also, Crash Course to Eli Brady Part 3? Not impossible. Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers with the last wild card. On the bubble, the Washington Redskins, Minnesota Vikings, and still in the hunt, the Green Bay Packers. Never count out Aaron Rodgers and the Pack.
The name of the game is Show and Tell. This is where I bring in objects each week and use them to give you a few developing thoughts I have on the 2016 NFL season. Last week I sat here and told you about how the Rams needed to fire Jeff Fisher. They heeded my advice. Good move on their part. But now I'm here to tell you who they should hire as their next head coach. And for that, I'm bringing in a pair of khakis. You know who loves his khakis? Jim Harbaugh, current head coach of Michigan football. They need to get Harbaugh out there coaching the Rams. He's exactly the type of guy that could give them a little spunk, a little pizzazz. And this is a team that's been kind of blah, mediocre, whatever with Jeff Fisher. So now that they move past that, they need a guy who's going to get out there, assert himself. Jim Harbaugh seems like a good guy to do that out in Tinseltown. So sign him up. Give him these khakis, ship him over there, say, come on, pal. We need you to spice things up here out in L.A. Rams need to get Jim Harbaugh. So we'll put the khakis over here. I'm more of a jeans guy, as a matter of fact. But we'll bring in a wrench. A wrench. This is a big wrench, actually. But this is basically to symbolize that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys shouldn't throw a wrench into their plans this year by going back to Tony Romo over Dak Prescott. Listen, I know Prescott struggled against the Giants, and I know the last few weeks haven't exactly been all that glamorous, and I'm a big Romo guy to begin with. But they need to stick with the rookie. You don't want to cause long-term problems by turning back to Tony Romo, even though I do think Romo's a good quarterback. So don't throw a wrench in their plans. This team can make the Super Bowl as constituted. Don't throw a wrench in their plans. Jerry Jones, to you. Hang on to it. Finally, this is Doink the Clown. And this I'm bringing in because not only do I love to bring in wrestling guys, apparently, I do this week after week, but also the NFL announced that they're going to have a skills competition. It's going to include dodgeball, relay races. It's going to basically be like a summer camp in Orlando for whatever reason. And I just think that's going to turn into a total circus. It's going to be entertaining. I'm going to enjoy it. I hope somebody gets hit in the mouth, knocks some teeth out, whatever. Hope it's just completely novelty. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to be a circus. Doink the Clown, he loves controlled chaos, as do I. So I'm looking forward to the Pro Bowl, but it's just going to be a mess.
That does it for this week. We'll be following along with all of the action on Sunday, so make sure to keep it locked on NESN.com for all your Patriots news. And as always, check out any of our podcasts for all your NFL news. Happy Week 15, everyone!